unfortunately, those people are being drowned by slapstick AI. And slapstick AI needs to be exposed. Slapstick AI needs to be, quite frankly, eliminated in the market.
Joining me today is Jav, our CTO. Jav, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, and thank you for having me. My name is Javid Khan. I'm the CTO and co-founder for CloudGuard. Super excited to be here, and you and I interact on a day-to-day, so this is actually quite nice to showcase the sort of conversations that we have naturally, but in front of a camera. So I'm excited for today.
So let's start talking about this. AI. There's a lot of buzzwords around AI, especially after OpenAI went and introduced ChatGPT to the world. And there's this common misconception right now, isn't there, that AI can do everything. Like you can throw a problem at it and it can deal with it and fix it for you. We see a lot of this, people using AI for job applications, for interviews, and you can see increasingly when you go and look at blog posts and news articles and stuff, it's becoming more and more apparent that AI is being used everywhere. And so where we've ended up now is people are jumping on the hype train, right? It's all about AI. Oh yeah, we do AI as well. Oh, we do AI as well. And we're just seeing a lot of that, and it becomes very difficult to separate, the real AI from almost a buzzword AI. What's your thoughts on that?
We've only got a small amount of time, so I could speak for hours on this subject, as you know, very passionate about this movement. So one thing I will say is AI as a whole is very exciting. We're in a very huge revolutionary transformation in the industry across the world, right? The minute AI was consumerized or consumified, it changed the game, right? So when I think about CloudGuard in inception, myself and Matt, when we first had this idea of building a proactive, really, really next-gen cybersecurity platform and service, AI and automation was on the forefront of that idea because that was the only way it could be done. So we're talking, 2018 when the idea was coming through. 2019 is when we actually launched. And yeah, 2019, AI, although there, wasn't consumer. I mean, GPT hadn't been released at this point. I think 3.5 got released in 19 or 20. So just shortly after. OpenAI had launched and it was doing some amazing research. And I was one of the first to actually register for its API. So we were doing some interesting dev testing with its API in its infancy. The models were nowhere near as mature as today, but it was enough to gauge what was going on. But it wasn't mature and there was no real AI platform out there. If anything, we had to develop proprietary AI models ourselves, which required Python development and required a lot of development as a whole in comparison to where we are today. So we started off the journey of trying to understand how we can do it. Now we didn't fulfill the entire strategy using AI, but we used pockets of it initially. But we had this idea of, okay, we can't use AI end to end yet because we're just not mature enough, and the amount of investment and cost required to launch this business would be quite high. Let's go down the automation route. And that's where we then started to build a lot of the orchestration layer and the automation layer. And that just kept evolving and evolving. Now, what happened, fast forward 21, 22, it became apparent that, we've got this thing called ChatGPT. And we all saw the power of ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT today is super rich, amazing. Even then when it launched was like, oh my God, I can tell it all sorts of stuff and it would come back to me. It was almost, Siri on steroids, or that other agent beginning with A, that if I trigger, it would probably go crazy in my office. That on steroids, right? So for me, it was almost revolutionary in that your average consumer, your average person can now have this assistant in your pocket. What happens when you throw a bit of firepower at this assistant to help support the orchestration and automation that we've built? And that's kind of how it's evolved. Where we are right now, though, and that's obviously the natural cause of events, right? You're following the trend, you're following the industry, you're maturing with what's available to you. And as we've hired people in the team and as you've come along and others, we've almost taken what is available to us and we've bolted it into our existing workflows, and we're only iteratively maturing. Basically, we're using AI where we need to use AI because it will have the most impact and the most efficiency gains in our business. And we've just keep going, and we're going. And our AI roadmap, as you know, is exquisite. It's exciting. It's super. I can't wait to facilitate some of the results of what we're about to launch. Now, if you look at others in the industry, what's happened is I think the .ai boom, like the .com boom in 2000, is gone ridiculously sky high, right? So I'm now seeing companies launch by the day with a .ai. Before it was quite cool names. Now it's getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think the use of AI for these domains, forget cyber for a minute, I'm just talking just generally. A lot of it is just a wrapper around ChatGPT. So a lot of it is just using the API, which is great, by the way. And it's throwing preempted and pre-configured prompts off the back of a GUI interface, right? So if there's a button that press, in whatever context that app's in, press this button, it's already pre-configured with prompts and it returns back results. That's kind of where a lot of the AI apps are today. Now, if we look at it in a cyber context, a lot of them, a lot of the companies and a lot of products out there are leveraging, some are using AI in its true form, which is fantastic. And I've seen it in action. It's amazing. But some are using the same exact concept of just summarizing context. So by pressing a button, taking data from 1, 2, 3, and 4, summarizing it, and all of a sudden I've got an AI platform. And if you don't have to press that button and it almost comes to you without pressing a button, it's almost super powerful AI. It's like that. It's as easy now to develop that in your stack, in your platform. And as soon as you do that, and as soon as you integrate with, say, OpenAI or any other, Claude or Gemini, or whatever you integrate with, you almost have the privilege of slapping the powered by AI badge on. And that, for me, is my issue. So you're able to slap a badge on, now all of a sudden make a lot of noise in the market, now all of a sudden be a thought leader and a credible authority in that industry, in this case, cyber. And all of a sudden, you're now going to shit, excuse my language, you're now going to shit on everyone else that's gone through the trenches of evolution, of understanding that industry, understanding when to integrate AI, when to use it in its maximum capacity and slowly roll it out as part of a strategic intent rather than lipstick, slap it on, sell it, and let's just hope no one notices. And I'm here really trying to break that hype bubble in the little area I've got that I have influence over. That, do you know what? There is some really good tools out there, and they're being completely tarnished and completely thrown under a bus because there are this lipstick slapstick AI solutions out there that are taking up all the hype and unfortunately confusing the consumer. And that is unacceptable, in my opinion.
See, it's interesting you say that. So with AI, I know a lot of companies have been using AI for a very long time, actually longer than you could imagine, and it is surprising. And they were using it for specialist tasks, as you say. So, for example, the aerospace engineering industry use AI quite often to figure out new materials, changing the shape of materials to strengthen planes and make them lighter and therefore make them more efficient. But we're never really exposed to this. And I feel like the only exposure we really got was from Hollywood.
Yeah.
I was like, AI is a robot, and this robot it generally goes along the lines of, it's a robot, it was made to do things and help humans, and then it caught feelings.
Yeah.
Right? And then ChatGPT comes along, and suddenly AI becomes known to everyone. But what really gets to me is, that's one part of AI. It's conversational AI, it's generative AI. It is not the other types of AI. So I often have this conversation with elders and people that aren't really into tech much. It's like, oh, what is AI? Oh, look, it's telling me this, it's telling me that. And they almost say, oh, because it's AI, I'll take that for gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Anything it spits at me, it must be true.
Yeah.
And you see all sorts of weird and wonderful posts around that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what we need to understand is generative AI, and that is the thing that we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
The whole, get this bit, summarize it, slapstick, there we go. We can do a bit of summarization.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we've got AI. It is just that. It is the generative text-based conversational AI. And at the heart of it, its job is to sound as human as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's limited by its training data. It is limited by what it knows and what it has access to.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't really trained for the specific use cases. Mm-hmm. So slapstick AI off the back of an API, it is just summarize this or make this more wordy or organize. I mean, it does a pretty good job of it, but it is only doing the one thing, just in different ways. But if you're talking about real AI, and this is something, it's difficult to grasp, but real AI is difficult, is expensive, it is taxing, it is, you got to pull your hair out sometimes. But you're talking about data, you got to get as much data as you want, you got to train it, you've got to understand how it's interpreting it, and then even then you can't really. And that's where the juicy AI comes in, because that is then artificial intelligence in context of the product or the solution that you're building.
Do you know, you're spot on, and I think to add to that, GenAI, you're spot on. That's exactly what we're talking about. It's all about prompt engineering. That's what it is, right? So it's clever prompts. And I remember about 3 years ago, I had this hypothesis that prompt engineering as a role will be a very lucrative role. Salaries will be in excess of 250K, and I kind of guaranteed it. And guess what? It's happening. So you got some of the best prompt engineers that are working for these businesses that need to do Gen AI because they need to slapstick some AI within their stack, right? And this is where clever prompt engineering comes in. So, and I don't want to take it away from anyone that is clever at prompt engineering, because I think it's an art form in its own. But for me, it's one element of intelligence, right? It's great at taking the context in which you're feeding it, using the data set it has access to, and then presenting back a summarization and conversational summarization back to the end user, right? Which I think is cool. It's really cool, and it could be used, and I use it in my day to day all the time. I don't use Google anymore. I don't know about you, but I don't use Google anymore. I use Perplexity. Even the latest GPT release, the O release, just as powerful. Like, you can literally, because it is real time sort of knowledge. And one thing I like about Perplexity is citation. So it actually tells you where it takes the sources from when it gives you a result. So it's almost, Google just gives you static kind of links to the search, and you have to go click, paste, click, paste, click, paste, and click and go, come back, click, go, come back. Where Perplexity brings it all together, and it brings your citations where it's from. You decide where you then want to go from the context it's presided with. So that's an example of how, Gen AI and that type of application at an end user really works. I use another example, back to your analogy around the elders. I was at my mum's house this weekend, and my mum has no idea about any of this stuff, right? And when she asked me what this AI thing was, she called it IA initially. I was going to let me reverse that for you, but it's fine. And when I played her the GPT, the voice command, she just thought nothing of it. Well, it's Siri, isn't it? So no, let me tell you what it can do. And I almost had to bring gimmicks to it just to show her the power of it. And I made it speak in a Pakistani accent, and if anything, throw some Urdu words at her, and it did it. And she was then blown away. Oh my God, this AI is fantastic. All of a sudden, and she's exactly the consumer market that a lot of these slapstick AI are going for, because they're trying to bring a really sexy slapstick front of house, whether it's voice, modal, whatever it is, in terms of modality, but the output needs to be so slapstick and it bangs so hard at the end user that they're blown away with it. But what they don't understand and what they don't realize is it's actually quite simple in terms of what it's doing and how it's doing it. So your idea of real AI, and I'll tell you how I like to see where AI is today, and it's something that I've seen progress over time, is agentic AI. So the idea of AI agents, I think, has been something I predicted again a year ago. I knew this would happen, and I didn't know how big this buzz would be, but now agentic AI, again, is everywhere. It's another marketing term. And, the way I see AI agents in our business, in industry of cybersecurity as an example, is sub-functions of a workflow that represent the best function and the best form of it. So if I think about your traditional SOC analyst, the SOC analyst itself has, loads of different decision mindsets that they have to have, whether it's triaging, I need to go do some triage, investigation, that's another hat they have to wear. They then have to go enrich, i.e. I've got to grab data and populate and enrich and put my own context to it. And then also remediate. That's another function that a SOC analyst will have to do. What I love about the agentic AI solution is that we can break down all of that logic into separate agents so that they can be the best version of that thing. When I think about the enrichment function. That's its job, is only to enrich. Do nothing more. Don't go off into the sunset and go get a coffee while you're waiting. All I need you to do is be the best enrichment leader in the world. Right. And when you configure and when you program this agent, call it, but this function to do just that, and know when the handoff is to the next function, that might be remediation, the function called remediation, or the function that it needs to interface, which might be called the decision logic, i.e., I will tell you, remediation, when to go remediate. Otherwise, just sit there and wait for my command, because I am taking data from all of my other friends and functions before I make a decision. Now, I'm really gone into the weeds, and I don't mean to go straight into solutioning, but for me, that's the true use of how agentic AI in our industry could be used, where you throw all your firepower at all of these sub-functions, but together, the orchestra is just magic, right? And if you think about the orchestrator with his the conductor, and he's literally conducting all of these instruments and all these people that are playing these instruments, its job is just to get the best powerful music and peace out of these instruments and all these functions. And the minute there's an issue, it will almost tap away, or she will tap away, and all of a sudden they'll come back on form. That is the job of the orchestra, the whole AI kind of orchestrator, but these agents all play respectively together to deliver an output. Now, anyone that can build that, and anyone that can drive value to their end customers via something like that, for me, they're winning. Oh, guess what? That's what CloudGuard do. Shameless plug.
That is a brilliant example. Ansel. That's very interesting. So if we roll back a little, let's go back to prompt engineering, and then bear with us. This will all make sense. It'll all tie into agentic AI. So I've done a bit of I'm not going to call it prompt engineering, but I've tried to play about with AI in my own sort of personal life, so outside of work. And the use case at work is very different to the use case at home, right? You got to come up with all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff, right? And so I've started messing about with some AI models. So I like to use Gemini. I'm a big fan of it. And so what you do is you get this new AI bot. Create a new bot, and you got to give it two things. You've got to give it an instruction, and then you give it data to carry out that instruction. So the instruction might be something like, you are this, you have to do X, Y, and Z with the thing I give you. Mm-hmm. Okay? So it might be something as simple. I'll give an example. I'm going to give you a web page content, and you're going to try and find a timetable for a specific month. And you'd think that would work, and it just doesn't. Mm-hmm. Right? And then you got to go back. Okay, that didn't work. I've got to go back to the instruction and say, okay, no, I want you to look for exactly this. And then, oh no, but it might look like this, or it might look like that. And it just becomes increasingly complicated. And sometimes what you see is it's actually simpler just to program a solution. And use, for example, if I had used regex, God, it would have been so much simpler. I would have got it done within 10 minutes, ready, as opposed to like 2 or 3 days in a row. I find that about AI, it can be this general AI that we use, conversational AI, it can be very, not flaky, but not very accurate. Yeah. And it sometimes starts to hallucinate. And I think because of that, one day I asked Gemini something on my phone, and I kid you not, I got a response in JSON format. It was curly brace, data, and then the answer inside. And I'm like, what are you doing? What is going on here?
I think the prompt engineering side of things, it's an art form. But what I don't like about it sometimes, to your point now, is that you can send it one sentence, you get an output. You send it that same sentence the next hour, it won't be the same output. And that for me is an issue, because especially if you're using something in context of offering a service to a customer or a client, you almost want it to be guaranteed its outcome and its results. And the only way you can get that is by having your own data, right? So if you've got your own SLM or your own LLM that your GenAI is using, then all of a sudden you can absolutely program it so that it's consistent with output. The minute you're using the consumer grade Gemini that has access to the internet, all of a sudden it can hallucinate. It can take context in different directions. 90% of the times, 9 times out of 10, it will present us with great results. But the fact that there's still that 1 in 10 chance of it failing me, which is why I would never rely on anything that's public facing for, commercial grade or professional grade kind of usage. For me, it's fine. If I want to, where's a local park that's a certain size, that's certain swings of certain structure for my kids that don't want to go too high up in there, in terms of swing, it will give me what I need. It's fine. I don't know if you've seen the Guess My Geo, the Geo Guesser. So you can apparently, I've seen it online, but you can send it pictures. It'll now tell you where you are in the world, GPS coordinates and all, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why that works really well, because let's be honest, it's got internet data, it's got training, it can't go wrong. It's like factual. The output will always be the same.
Yeah.
But the minute I throw a subjective question its way, or what do you think of, or how do you think we should do this, or all of a sudden that can hallucinate. It can take me down fucking rabbit holes.
Yeah.
And that for me is an issue.
I think the key word there was SLM and LLM, right?
Mm-hmm.
The AI that we are exposed to, and again, the slapstick AI, usually LLM, large language model, which is a massive dictionary of all sorts of data, and it's kept as generic as possible. And then SLM is small language model, which is sort of data that is focused to a specific use case, right? I think the best example I can come up with is if you use an LLM to get AI, to have AI interpret a diagnostic report off an MRI scan, for example, it would struggle. But if you gave it an LLM, training data that is specific to healthcare, it would smash it out of the park.
Absolutely.
And that leans very nicely into the agentic AI conversation as well. Because the thing about agentic AI is you're breaking the tasks up into chunks. So you're not just saying, hey, you, Mr. One AI, I want you to get all this information. I want you to investigate it. I want you to tell me if it's suspicious. I want you to go and do more investigations and check threat intelligence and all this and come up with a decision. And then if it's good or bad, I want you to remediate it. And if you did that, you're going to have a whale of a time. It is going to be horrendous, right? But if you start breaking these these things down into little tasks, I want to say the little tasks are those little things that you do. So I do an investigation. I've got my raw data. Now I want to interpret this data. Okay. Now I need to provide more context in terms of TI, right? Now I need to decide whether or not this is good. Now I need to know, does this need more eyes on it? Have I got enough information? Or would I rather have a human take over this? And then finally, the last one will be remediation, right? And the beauty of having the agentic is my job is simply to remediate. I'm going to tell you, go and disable this user or isolate this device, right? And that's all you're going to do. If I tell you anything else, you're going to say, on your bikes, mate. Well, a human can talk to it, and so the orchestrating bit in the middle that helps all the agents out or directs all the agents can also do that. And if you tie that with an SLM or training data that is specific to its use case, that is then true agentic AI.
So if you take that and extend it even further, what happens when you then throw even more customer context at it, right? So everything you just went through is an amazing workflow. I wonder who does that. No shame, CloudGuard. But imagine what happens when you throw even more customer data at it and even more context at it. All of a sudden those agents can take even more data about the situation it's in based on the customer and the context of the customer it's dealing with. So no longer is it just generic, okay, there's a threat and IOCs come in, I've got to follow this playbook, which is obviously what it does. But imagine if it said, actually, this customer had this thing a month ago, similar to it, or there was a similar adversary that occurred only a week ago, or even in the industry this customer is in, I need to consider that, or this user is a repeat offender, or this user actually doesn't normally go to China. I need to consider that. So, this is additional context that one can throw at it. And all of a sudden, the agents can use these data signals and these inputs to then decide even further on the weighting in which it needs to go down and what direction it needs to go down, or what agent it needs to call upon next because of this additional context. So something that I think that a lot of revolutionary platforms and providers are doing is they're using AI in the way we've described, maybe not in this context, but the way we've described it in terms of the agentic functions, splitting out the core solutions and kind of bringing them together through some kind of orchestration. Using GenAI as one of those functions, it's a core element of that needs to happen. But the biggest piece of the puzzle that I think the ones that are doing really well in is being able to build its own data model and reinforced learning. So the idea that you're taking data, you're building your own private data for, on behalf of your customers, and then you're using that data to continuously learn through the behaviors of the customers and clients that you're serving, that then reinforces that behavior and that learning back into the model, trains it again, and just keeps going. All of a sudden, you will see a massive uptake in terms of replacing particular physical human roles in the business that you're in. So if you've got particular SMEs doing that thing and have been doing it for 10 years, if you play that game really well, you will eliminate that function. Absolutely. But what it means for the companies and the founders is that they can repurpose those people to do more intelligent things that today's AI can't do. We know it can't do, or we don't have confidence in, right? And that's where the human intelligence can come through. So the ones that are doing it properly, the ones that are using AI in its best efficient way, for me, are the ones that are winning. But back to the original problem statement and why we're even on this call. Unfortunately, those people are being drowned by slapstick AI.
Yeah. And
slapstick AI needs to be exposed. Slapstick AI needs to be, quite frankly, eliminated in the market. And we will see a decline. It will happen another 2 to 3 years. I think we'll start seeing exposure happen. And I think my urge to anyone listening on this call, on this podcast is, do your research, do your homework. If you do find something interesting, forget cyber for a minute, just in general industry, you see a bit of an AI that you actually need, play with it. Get your demos arranged, do your questions, do your deep dives, ask the techies that are presenting to you all the questions in the world. How's it all going to work? Ask about, something I really pride ourselves against is data. Where's the data sit? What's your AI compliance? What's your AI policy? Your transactions that you're running or whatever you're doing, where does it actually occur, and what data is being passed through that particular engine, right? And how do you secure my data from doing that? Especially if you're going to be using some kind of Gen AI and my data will be used as context. Where are you going to store this stuff? Because I don't want my data being leaking into the net. So there's all things I would urge anyone to ask, and I'll definitely urge that if you do find companies that aren't giving you a satisfied answer, explore other solutions. Don't just give up. There are tons of solution services out there that are using amazing AI. Just keep exploring and keep researching.
An interesting point about the context, customer context. It very easily, and again, not plugging us here, but you can start moving away from the world of reactive SOC to proactive SOC, right? I'll give an example. There's customers in this industry. We've just seen this happen. Okay, we've seen it happen again. Different customers, same industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened. You start to see a pattern emerge, and then you can start moving on to proactive agents. And this is things like when you see a pattern emerge, go do a threat hunt.
Mm-hmm.
You know the context. You've seen that there's X customers, all from the same industry, getting the same or similar attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Just go and hunt all of the other customers,
totally,
based on the TTPs that you're seeing, and see if you can find anything. Let's get ahead of the curve now. Let's start being proactive. And then you can start building that into comms, and then it just explodes, right? Because that's the way you can truly bring value through AI, is when you've moved away from that reactive AI, from the whole here's some information, go do something with it, to you've got information, you've noticed a pattern, you are going to go and trigger something else now, and have a positive impact on the customers and the product.
And I think that is the true, in my opinion, the true use of AI, when you're able to throw so many functions and so many workflows with so much data and so much real-time events that need to occur to get to an answer at lightning speed that would have taken humans hours, days, weeks in some instances. to collate all of this information together, what we can do in an instant second. That is revolution. For me, that is transformation at its best, right? This is the digital revolution that we're now in, where we now have accessibility to data real time, context real time, but more importantly, taking data from every landscape and being able to provide us an answer real time. This is where we're at. And I think in the application of our business and cyber as a whole, if done right, this will save the world, in my opinion. This is world impacting, because we are going to save and protect customers and users from adversaries, from threat actors and nefarious actors that are there. Their sole purpose as humans, and it's awful. And also there are naughty AIs, as we know, that do this equally. Their sole purpose is to bring down companies and bring down users, right? And for me, it's our moral duty to use complex AI and complex automation and complex technology to battle against nefarious actors that are equally using complex technology and complex mindsets, right? And this is the state. This is where we are, right? And slapstick AI isn't going to do that. So, right, slapstick AI will just summarize all that shit and present it back and say, yeah, you're in a bad position. It's not good enough. We need proactive and prevention. One more thing to add is something I get excited about is what happens when you throw more information signals at this type of thing. For example, BBC data, newsfeed data, right? There's world wars going on or about to go on, turmoil, the India-Pakistan situation. This is data that can be used to determine if a nefarious actor has a political agenda that we might want to consider, right? So again, weather, if there's a hurricane in a certain region, or if there's a weather warning or whatnot, that data point or that information might equally be helpful to us when we're trying to find out a particular TTP or find out a particular IOC. These are all things that an analyst would typically do, but it takes hours for them to go investigate all these data points. So much so they won't even bother looking at half the points that we do as CloudGuard, obviously, because they just don't have the time. And more importantly, we just got to follow the core playbook, which is malicious IP, which is, the region they're in and whatnot, geo. So anyway, I just want to throw that in there, that what AI has allowed us to do, it's allowed us to revolutionize the way we now proactively hunt, the way we collate data, aggregate the data, and then make decisions real time. For me, that's powerful.
Some very, very interesting points of conversation there. So for anyone listening, I guess we've got two audiences: people that are wanting to get into AI and develop AI, and people that are looking at purchasing AI products. And I guess to summarize it, if you're looking to purchase AI, ask questions, really probe and figure out, is the product you're going for actually using real AI? And what is it doing with your data? Is it storing it? Is it using to train? Are you passing sensitive information over to that AI? And if you are, then that becomes more and more important, because you don't want your information that you provide going in and being trained on, and then potentially being exposed to other people using the same platform. So ask those questions. Yeah, and there's lots of frameworks for businesses to follow as well when it comes to the use of AI. So there's ISO frameworks and there's EU directives that are up and coming as well. Explore those and ask those questions. Do you conform to these standards? Are you following these directives? And on the opposite side, if you're into developing AI, start with the problem. Don't concentrate on, I just need to get AI in my product. Really think about, where can I use AI to have a meaningful impact on my product in a way that's really going to help my customers, not just summarize this data and here you go, I've just reworded an essay for you. No, let's think about how you can really use AI to make a difference in an innovative way. And that's it. That's a wrap. Thanks for having us, Jav. Lovely for you to join us.
Thank you for inviting me, and look forward to the next one.
Yeah. Until next time.
Absolutely.